our Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong, for the Wiltfong Whiparound. And first off, Steve, before we get into questions, I got to point out, I mean, you're looking sharp today. You got the jacket on, so it must be a really big day for us. So people that have not already hit that like button, I mean, even if you don't like the video, you got to like the outfit today. So go ahead and smash that like button. We do appreciate it. This was one of those shows, Steve, where we had all these questions we wanted to ask you, all the recruiting intel from the weekend, and then we just blew it up because Dylan Raiola made his commitment. But there's still a lot of things happening over the weekend. We got to talk about five-star defensive lineman Williams Nwaneri has scheduled 4 officials for June. He'll be heading to Georgia, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Missouri. And then in September, he'll visit the Oregon Ducks. So with these trips now in the books, looking at his recruitment going forward, how are you feeling about his recruitment ahead of these visits?
Yeah, I give the edge to Tennessee right now going into these official visits, but obviously several schools are still in play. But I think that the couple visits to Knoxville this calendar year and the way that Tennessee's program is on the upward trajectory and the relationships he's built with that staff has put Tennessee in pole position. Now, Oklahoma's a place he's been 6 times. I'm not sure he's tighter with the coaching staff than he is with Coach Chavis, Coach Bates, and Coach Venables in Norman. And so certainly Oklahoma is another program that I think is very much in the middle of it for Williams Nwaneri. And then the last school that I think is really on the short list right now is Oregon. I think that Dan Lanning being from there, the relationships he has in the community, and then the relationships that Nwaneri has with Tony Tuioti and Coach Tosh Lupoy, and the trajectory that Oregon's on under Dan Lanning is really exciting to him as well. He's going to take his official there for the Colorado game during the fall, and then we'll see a decision come shortly after that. Right now, I like Tennessee. You never sleep on Georgia. He's been there once. He's taken an official the first weekend of June. But Tennessee, I like where they're at. Oklahoma, I think they're certainly very much a contender. And then Oregon, I would put as dark horse status for Williams Nwaneri going into these official visits.
Man, what a defensive line room there potentially in Norman. You would have PJ Adebawore, Williams Nwaneri on opposite sides. That'd be crazy. Steve, we've talked a ton of Georgia on this show, tons of positives for good reason. But 2 of their commits over the weekend were down in Miami and Coral Gables, pair of defensive backs. You mentioned Spatula. I didn't know we were in Spatula season yet.
It's always Spatula
should the
season.
Bulldogs be worried about Mario Cristobal flipping some of those DBs from the Bulldogs? Excuse me.
So if I had to say there was a school to watch out for in the Ellis Robinson sweepstakes, it would be Miami. I still think he's going to be an incredibly tough flip from the 2-time defending national champs, but both his parents were in Miami this weekend with him. I think it was his mom's first time on campus. They got a chance to meet some of the new staffers. So it was a great experience, and they like the staff that Cristobal is putting together and the direction of the program. And he's going to come back for an official visit on June 9th. So it's obvious he's got a keen eye on Miami right now in this process. And then Jalen Hayward had a great time with the coaches and their families, got to know them on a personal level, and talked about how Miami's on the way back up slowly but surely. And so he's taken some visits. Miami's a school that he's considering here as well, but not ready to put any of them on flip watch just yet.
All right, we'll wait for that spatula. Miami hosting a ton of talent over the weekend. I want to hit on the defensive linemen here, a pair of 5-stars in David Stone and Dylan Stewart. Also, you got a 3-star, Jaden Jackson, all of them on campus. So where do the Canes sit in the recruitments of these dominant pass rushers?
Yeah, so much of the talk with Dylan Stewart's recruitment has been on this show about Georgia. I've liked where Georgia's been positioned with him because of the way they can develop that outside linebacker pass rushing position that he would fit perfectly in for Georgia. And then certainly Ohio State is a program he likes with the history they've had at the defensive end position with guys like Chase Young and Nick Bosa developing under Coach Larry Johnson. Alabama and South Carolina, 2 other contenders. But I've said on the show, keep an eye on Miami, keep an eye on Oregon. And he returned to Miami this weekend with his parents. And I think he's spending time with Jason Taylor, who Gabby Uridia wrote a great story on Jason Taylor today on Inside the U. You're talking about a guy who was the NFL Defensive Player of the Year, an all-pro 15-year career that was also the Walter Payton a man of the year in the NFL. He's the total package as a coach and recruiter. He is becoming right away an elite recruiter, maybe in the same breath as Brian Hartline. We'll see what that looks like at the end of the cycle. But Jason Taylor has Miami in the mix for what could potentially be the best defensive line class in the country, and Dylan Stewart and his family really enjoyed being around him, as did David Stone, who's been on Miami's campus several times this year already. I think they both could be back June 9th weekend for an official visit in Coral Gables. So Oklahoma and Oregon, two other major contenders for David Stone, among others, but Miami very much a major factor for him. And then Andrew Jaden Jackson, you're going to get to see him play on Wednesday at IMG Spring Game, and I'm excited to hear what you think of him, because the buzz behind the scenes is he's 6'3", over 300 pounds, high motor player. He is very high on several boards, including Miami. He's also a leader of that IMG football team, one of the guys that they count on. And I think that Miami's a major contender for him on his short list. I expect him back one more time on an unofficial before his official in June. So Miami looks like they're in great position for one of their most coveted interior defensive linemen.
Steve, it's funny you bring up Jason Taylor. I remember a few years ago when he was the defensive coordinator at St. Thomas Aquinas. I was at a practice, bunch of college coaches there. One college coach I trust told me, hey, Jason Taylor's going to be a head coach at the collegiate level one day. They said he could go wherever he wants. He's going to get the job done, and we're seeing what he's doing here in year one. Steve, a prospect we're talking a lot about behind the scenes at 24/7 Sports and our scouting meetings, Carter Nelson, the freaky tight end. He's got a pair of official visits set up, one to Notre Dame, one to Georgia. What's the latest on Nelson?
Yeah, this is your guy, Andrew. I was excited to hear that we were going to be talking about him, because this is a guy that you pegged as a major riser in our upcoming rankings update in the 2024 class. He's been high on a lot of these college boards here. As you said, official visit to Georgia the first weekend in June. I think the Bulldogs are a program that have been trending up for him. Official visit to Notre Dame on June 9th. I think Notre Dame's tight end track record over the last 2 decades now, I don't know, time's flying. Michael Mayer, the latest to come out of there, is something that excites him and his family. Nebraska and Penn State are in the mix for potential official visits moving forward. He recently attended the Huskers spring game. He also took April visits to Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Colorado got him to campus in March. But talking to his family, you said he had the officials to Georgia and Notre Dame scheduled, and sounds like they were looking to get something on the books for Nebraska and Penn State in the near future. And Penn State's another program that's really putting together a heck of a tight end run up there in Happy Valley.
I wonder who's been pushing the Carter Nelson talk behind the scenes, Andrew. I know you are a tight end guy there. That makes a whole lot of sense. I got to ask about, right?
He just talks to himself, Emily. He just tosses it up to himself and then
he's like, yeah, my own personal meetings, I'm just talking about. Yeah, I'm just talking about Carter Nelson.
No. Cooper is a big fan as well.
Okay.
We got him on later on in the show. He's a fan of Carter Nelson, who plays 8-man football. We didn't even bring that up. He plays 8-man football. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Dad's his basketball coach. He's got a lot of stuff going on up there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? It's only May. I'm sure we'll be talking about him a lot in this cycle. This is just your first little taste, so save it, Andrew. We will talk about Carter Nelson later. 4-star edge Emmanuel Okoye out of the NFL Academy in London. He recently reclassified from the 2024 class to 2023, so he is ready to decide where he's playing this fall. Not fully ready to break it down to 3. His final includes Tennessee, Texas Tech, and USC. So, Steve, where's he leaning?
I think Tennessee is the program to beat right now going into his decision, one that I'm expecting him to make on May 17th here this week. I like the way it's going for Tennessee. They had a top 10 recruiting class in this cycle coming off an 11-win campaign. And I think that this is going to be another recruiting win for them on the trail. And Andrew and I talked about him earlier this week. I called him up and asked if we could move him to athlete, because he is a guy that has potential to play other positions on the next level outside of defensive end or outside linebacker. And I think if he picks Tennessee, we're going to see this young man play tight end right out the gate. The Vols have just 3 scholarship tight ends on campus, and he is a freaky athlete with a 45.5-inch vertical. That's very raw as a football player, but tight end is a position where he has a skill set to be a dynamic matchup problem for Tennessee if it works out that way, and I think he's leaning towards the Vols.
Well, he would have been a member of the Freaks list had he not reclassified. And you talk about that Tennessee tight end room. Ethan Davis looked like he was having a good spring. He was on the Freaks list last year. He gets dinged up. So I could definitely see that need there at tight end. Steve, last one, Cutter Boley, quarterback, 2025 in our top 247. He's set to make an announcement later this week. Kentucky is trending on the crystal ball. What's the latest pulse on the recruitment here?
Yeah, you said it. I dig where Kentucky stands in this recruitment. I think it's because Coach Cohn's back in Lexington, obviously was their offensive coordinator 2 years ago, went back to the NFL. Now he's back at Kentucky, and he's been recruiting Cutter Boley for several years now. I think Cutter Boley believes in Coach Cohn's offense, believes in the way he can develop him, and thinks that Kentucky's a program that's really on the rise. He grew up in Lexington and saw a lot of tough years, but has watched Mark Stoops and company really rejuvenate that program, a program that at one point 4 wins was a heck of a run. Now they're in the conversation for double-digit wins year in and year out, and I think he sees an opportunity to help Kentucky continue to take those steps forward. 6'5", 203 pounds. You wrote the scouting report on his profile. He's a guy that at one point was in the 2024 class, reclassified to 2025 because of the pandemic, but he certainly has the option to reclassify back to 2024. Kentucky is recruiting him as a 2024, as is Penn State, Florida State, Notre Dame, Michigan, some of the other contenders like him in 2025. But if he does pick Kentucky, I also think he ends up being Kentucky's quarterback in this 2024 cycle.
Go ahead and hit that like button if you have not already. Steve Wiltfong is telling you to do so with the double thumbs up. Thank you, Steve.
Take care, y'all.
Appreciate it. You can read more of his work on 247sports.com. And for more exclusive information, become a VIP member today. It's so easy. There's a QR code on the screen. Go ahead, open up your phone, open the camera app, hit that QR code, and just automatically become a Smarter fan.